Well, that was possibly the most insane episode of Dexter ever. I'm literally still in shock, you guys. I watched it last night at midnight and I literally could not go to sleep until like 5 in the morning because that was insane. The fact that I was awake for so many hours after the episode premiered, I should have filmed this recap and review last night to get it up sooner, but honestly, I was speechless. I couldn't gather my thoughts. So here we are the next day, and I'm still in shock. So let's just get right into it. I'm Pamela, welcome back to the channel. In case you're new here and you're a Dexter fan, please subscribe to the channel because we cover all things Dexter Resurrection throughout this entire season. Also, it goes without saying there will be major spoilers in this video, so if you have not seen episode 9 yet, come back to this after you've seen it because, wow, what an episode. Episode 9 was called Touched by an Angel, and it picks up where we left off at the end of episode 8, where Prader runs into Dexter and Harrison out having dinner. Obviously, this is terrible news for Dexter because he's been lying about his identity, and they of course lie about how they met. Harrison asks how Prader and Dexter met each other, and they say that they met in your car and that Dexter gave him a ride one day. And Harrison is sort of fanboying over Prader because clearly he's this like famous billionaire, and he's sort of learning little bits and pieces about Harrison and Dexter's life. He knows that Harrison works at the Empire Hotel, and obviously Dexter is not happy about this. So then Dexter and Prader go out front of the restaurant to talk some more, and we see that someone is snapping pictures of Dexter and Prader. And obviously we do learn that this is Batista, but before the reveal I was like, oh my god, this is definitely Batista. This is not gonna go well. Prader is sort of annoyed because he doesn't like surprises, and he didn't know that Dexter, aka Red, has a son. And he asks Dexter, does Harrison know the truth about you? Like, who you really are, a killer? And Prader informs Dexter about Charlie's suspicions of him, and Prader wants Dexter to trust him because he's shared more of his own life with Dexter than with anyone else. And he says to Dexter, you're unlike the others, and he wants to schedule some time to meet with him to learn more about his past. So then Dexter informs Harrison all about what's been going on, and I love that he is being honest with him rather than being like, oh, I can't tell you, or I can't say right now, or there's no time to explain. He just gets right down to it and tells him exactly what's been going on. Like, Prader has this serial killer club, he collects killers, and I've been pretending to be the dark passenger. I've infiltrated the group. I'm loving this, and I also love that Harrison is being extremely understanding. He's not judging Dexter for this. He's not questioning him like, why are you doing this? He is being very understanding, and I'm just loving it. I also loved how Dexter seemed to be super proud of himself when he was talking about how he took out both Gemini twins. So then Harrison and Dexter go into the subway station, and Harrison does bring up Rita, his mother, and how she died because he got too close to the Trinity killer. So then they go onto the train, but Dexter heads out in case someone is following them. And Angel was on the train too, and of course he's pissed because he lost Dexter. But he has the pictures of him with Prader, but he doesn't know at this point who Prader is. So then Lance, Harrison's friend, offers him a gig to make money, but it's at Prader's mansion, so he can't go. But then Charlie requests Harrison's food service at the Empire Hotel. She is in one of the hotel rooms and calls Harrison to bring her food. Like, she requested him specifically because she is still trying to look into Dexter and his true identity. So then Harrison calls Dexter to let him know how their conversation went, and we do see like flashbacks of their conversation, and Charlie was wondering why Harrison's last name isn't Schmidt but rather Morgan, and Dexter's like, great, she's one step away from Dexter Morgan. Harrison tells her that he took his mom's name, Hannah Morgan. My dad ditched us when we were 5, but then I tracked him down, and Charlie was like, how'd you do that? He's a private guy. Harrison says he wrote my mom a letter from New York, and he told Charlie that my dad's a rideshare driver, and she laughs in his face. And Harrison asks Dexter, why did she laugh? And Dexter's like, because it's ironic that the dark passenger is a rideshare driver. And Harrison's like, oh, she didn't know that? and he's sorry for blowing Dexter's cover. But I did find this a little bit confusing because literally 10 minutes earlier in this episode, Prader and Dexter say that they met through your car and that Dexter gave him a ride one night. So if Prader somehow knew that Dexter/Red worked as a rideshare driver, wouldn't Charlie know this as well? Because clearly if she is his head of security, she is well informed on everything. So is this a little plot hole here, or am I just not realizing something? I don't know. And then Charlie took Harrison's number so that Prader could meet him. And Dexter wants Harrison to stay with him for a few days to be safe. But wasn't that the plan anyway? Because of the gala at the hotel, there weren't going to be any rooms for Harrison. So in the previous episode, Harrison already asked Dexter to stay with him for a few days. So I don't know. I feel like there were a couple little plot holes in this scene right here, but I don't know. So then Dexter and Blessing make up. Blessing was mad at Dexter in the previous episode for revealing things about his past to his daughter, but he forgives him, and then Dexter asks Blessing for a favor to pick up Harrison from work to bring him to his apartment. And then Dexter breaks into Charlie's home, and he finds out that she lifted Prince off of Harrison's cup. She took home one of the cups that Harrison held at the hotel, and she lifted Prince. We also find out that Charlie's mother is living in her home. She has like an at-home little hospital room, and then Charlie goes and buys flowers for her mother, gets into her car, and Dexter freaking gets the Geely saw around her neck. And oh my god, first of all, this is reminiscent of the first ever episode of Dexter. Obviously, this is the Dark Passenger's signature weapon, and we've already known that Dexter's like impersonating him, but Dexter literally uses this weapon in the very first episode of Dexter. So he has Charlie in this moment. He's in control. She is not able to grab her gun, and so she's driving her car, and Dexter is like sort of strangling her. And he reveals that he went to her home and saw her mother. And she is genuinely fearing for her life in this moment. Dexter asks her how she went from serving her country to committing crimes for Prader. And she says, I served all over the world, then worked a few private security details, which led me to Prader. And then Prader found out about her sick mother. But then like he financed all of her mother's medical bills and stuff like that. And she asks Dexter, did you kill my mother? But obviously he didn't. He brings up how she scared Harrison by interrogating him essentially. But she says, I only do things that are a direct order from Prader. He exploits everyone's weaknesses. Mine is my mother and yours is your son. And then he threatens her and says, leave my son alone or I'll pay your mother another visit. This was a very intense scene. Very good acting by both Michael C. Hall and Uma Thurman. We definitely saw a different side of her than we've seen before. Like I said, she was genuinely fearing for her life. And I think that just goes to show how scary Dexter really can be when he needs to. So then Detective Wallace and Oliva are looking into the exact tool that the New York Ripper possibly uses. So in a previous episode, I think episode 7, Claudette had this theory that it was a crowbar, but Dexter informed her that it might actually be a different tool, something longer, something with a hook on the end, which of course he knows to be a fact because he saw the weapon in Prader's vault. So now Claudette is looking into it being like the tool for manhole covers, and she's looking into who has access to a tool like that. It's going to be some kind of a city worker, but the amount of people who have access to this tool is very extensive. So I'm hoping that they're setting this up for the finale. I wonder if in the finale we're going to find out who the New York Ripper is, or if like a lot of fans think it's going to carry over into season 2. So then Wallace does call in Batista, and she lets him know that I talked to Lieutenant Quinn, which by the way, I missed that last week. I didn't realize when Quinn picked up the phone, he answered saying Lieutenant Quinn. I did find out shortly after because I saw everyone talking about it, like on Twitter and YouTube, but I missed that when I watched the first episode. So Quinn has been promoted to lieutenant, which I'm sure most of you realize that, but I didn't bring it up in my past recap because I totally missed it. So I'm so happy for Quinn because as we know in the original show, he was a slacker. He could barely even make sergeant, but he is lieutenant now. That's crazy. Anyway, so as soon as Wallace brings up the fact that she talked to Quinn, Batista's like fuck, because he knows that now she knows that he's not actually a police officer anymore. So she says to him, you're breaking the law by impersonating a police officer, which obviously I get it. There are laws that you have to follow, but I feel like that's not fair because up until a week ago, he literally was a police officer and a captain at that. So yeah, I guess technically he is impersonating a police officer, but like, come on, he's a police officer. But then he basically says to them, like, Dexter's setting me up, he's twisting things out of context, this is what he does. But Wallace says to him, if you're still here tomorrow, I will have you arrested. And then he has to surrender his shield to them, and honestly, he just looks so defeated, so sad. I'm heartbroken for Batista in this moment. But then he does see a poster for Prader's gala, and that is pretty much how he's figuring out who Prader is. And then Dexter gets back home and he hears someone inside, so he assumes someone broke in. He does hear a female voice, so he's thinking it might be Charlie, but it was Harrison at home with Gigi. Harrison tells Dexter about how Gigi is considering a career in forensics, and she says how one of her professors says that blood spatter analysis has been debunked. And then Harrison says that Dad did most of his work in the late 1900s. And honestly, I couldn't tell if he was joking, but he seemed serious when he said it. I mean, technically it's an accurate statement, but that is just like a common joke these days that like, oh, you're considered old if you were born in the late 1900s. But then Harrison and Gigi go back to Gigi's place. And then Charlie is telling Prader about what happened with Dexter in the car and the Geely saw. He wants to see her wound. He's like impressed and he says, that's amazing. He says that Dexter was sending me a message and you're the message, but he wants to keep playing with us. And then Dexter calls Prader, wants to meet with him just like Prader said he wanted to, but he plans to plunge a knife into his heart. And Dexter says he wants it to just be the two of them and no Charlie. And then here we are at the beginning of the end. Angel shows up to Prader's place to talk with him about a possible threat to his life, but one of his security guys is like not having it. And then some other security shows up and Angel is kind of like beating the crap out of these guys. But then Charlie shows up, gets a hold of Batista and says, why is my boss in danger? And then, oh my God, Angel meets with Prader. At this point, I'm already losing my mind. And then Angel tells Prader who he is, the captain in Miami, and asks him, how do you know this guy? And Prader says, you mean Mr. Schmidt? And Angel says, no, he's Dexter Morgan. I worked with him over 20 years in Miami Metro Homicide. Oh my God, you guys. And then Charlie looks at Prader like, we got him. And then Dexter shows up to Prader's place, meets with him, and Prader calls him Dexter Morgan to his face. And Charlie pulls a freaking gun on him. And Prader knows that Dexter is the Bay Harbor Butcher, and he loves it. He is loving the fact that he's the Butcher. Which I knew that Prader, if and when he eventually found out the truth, would love the fact that he's the Butcher because he is a fan of the Bay Harbor Butcher. And Angel is strapped down to the frickin' ice truck killer table. I cannot even tell you guys how much I was freaking out at this point. I'm sure you know. I'm sure you were as well. I don't even need to tell you. Getting through the rest of this recap is probably going to be so difficult for me to not cry, to be honest. So Prader mentions how Dexter killed Lowell and also Red and asks him, how did you do it? And Dexter says, what makes you think I'd talk about that in front of Angel? And Prader is like freaking out. He is so excited to be talking to the Bay Harbor Butcher. He says to Dexter, it must have bothered you to give all of your kill credit to Dokes. And Dexter's like, what are we doing here? Prader says, I would like to be your benefactor like I did with Gemini. I have extensive files on serial slayers across the globe. We can invite them here and you do what you do and add them to your collection. And Dexter internally says, look at him taking my idea. Dexter asks, what's your plan for Angel? And Prader says, that's the price for your admission, and hands Dexter the knife to kill Angel. And Dexter says, you want a front row seat to see how the Bay Harbor Butcher kills? Prader says, I always wanted to see someone like you at work. So then Dexter puts his hand on Angel's chest, and this look from Angel was just breaking my heart. And Dexter internally says, Angel Batista has threatened my life, my son's life. Now that he's confirmed who I am without a shadow of a doubt, he will never give up. Dexter raises his knife, and Batista is so frightened in this moment. I'm absolutely losing my shit. And Dexter says, rule number 1 is don't get caught. But he cuts the straps that were holding Angel to the table. Instead of stabbing Batista, he cuts the straps to free Angel. And Dexter internally says, we were partners once, maybe we can be partners again. But Angel immediately fights Dexter, knocks the knife out of his hand, throws him to the ground, gets on top of him, and strangles him. And Batista says, this is for Dokes and for Maria. And he is freaking fuming. And Dexter internally says, there's something poetic about dying at the hands of my lifelong friend. And honestly, at this point, I am sobbing because I know Batista is about to die, but I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, whether it's going to be an accident at the hands of Dexter or Prader. And of course, he gets shot 5 times by Prader. So then Batista goes down, and then Prader is about to shoot Dexter as well, because Dexter went against them. He was supposed to kill Angel to essentially be re-welcomed into the club, but then the second that he cut the straps, he went against them. So Prader was going to shoot Dexter, but Charlie takes Prader away, and Dexter throws this like hatchet at them and slices Charlie's hand. And this moment right here when Prader was waving goodbye to Dexter was so funny. I genuinely busted out laughing. And then after watching this episode, I rewatched the last 5 minutes of this episode probably 5 times. And every time Prader waves, I bust out laughing. It's so funny to me. So Angel is bleeding out on the floor, and Dexter says to himself, there's no coming back from this. No God who can save him. And then Dexter says to Angel, I need you to know I didn't kill Maria or Dokes. I may be the Bay Harbor Butcher, but I promise you I didn't kill them. Like, this is just killing me. Dexter knows that Angel is about to die, but he needed his lifelong friend, this man who he respected for so many years, to know before he leaves this world that he did not kill these people. But Angel says to him, it's your fault, and now I'm dying because of you, just like they did. And Dexter says to him, I'm sorry. And then Angel's last words to Dexter were, Dexter Morgan, fuck you. And honestly, I did think his last words were pretty fitting, but when he starts to say to Dexter, he says Dexter Morgan, and Dexter kind of leans in, like really wanting to hear what he's about to say. He was probably hoping that Angel would say, Dexter Morgan, I forgive you. I feel like that is really what Dexter was needing to hear in that moment, but of course he says, fuck you. And Dexter's reaction to that is just like, damn, that was my friend's final dying thoughts of me. And Dexter is clearly distraught that Angel is dead. He says no, and then screams. Oh my God, you guys, like, wow is pretty much all I can say. When I tell you that I was absolutely sobbing during this scene, I am not kidding. It kind of takes a lot for me to cry sometimes. Like, I can't remember crying throughout the original Dexter series other than like when Deb dies. This ending had me crying my eyes out and absolutely speechless. I am just devastated, as I'm sure most of you are as well, even though I did see a lot of fans saying that they were kind of wanting him to die because he was on to Dexter. And I have said to you guys before, like, I had very conflicted feelings because obviously I don't want Dexter to get caught. But Angel's just doing what he thinks is right, and I love Angel, and I love Dexter, so I was kind of rooting for them both. And this just makes me sad for Angel because I'm willing to bet that no one's even gonna know what happened to him. Like, I don't know who's gonna dispose of the body, whether it's gonna be Dexter or Prader. I really don't know what's gonna happen, but either way, I do think his body is just gonna be disposed of, never to be found again. And Quinn and Masuka are never gonna find out what happened to him, and that just breaks my fucking heart. And hell, even his daughter. I forget sometimes that he has a daughter. She is definitely fully grown at this point, and she's probably never gonna know what happened to her father. Michael C. Hall's performance in this moment was just absolutely amazing. He's always amazing, but like, damn, this scene and David Zayas, people, like, let's give him a round of applause. He deserves his flowers. Like, truly, thank you so much for portraying this amazing character we all loved for 20 freaking years. This pure of heart character who gave this amazing performance in his last moments. And honestly, I am so happy that Dexter wasn't gonna kill him. I would have never forgave him if he killed Batista. But also, it's so amazing when we do see Dexter feel true emotion. You know, he's always so stoic, never really shows his emotions, but it's rare when he truly shows his emotion, and he was so sad that Angel was dying. Like, his lip was quivering. Man, what a performance. And last night after the episode, I was seeing a lot of people on Twitter saying how they're not happy with how they executed this moment, but honestly, I'm happy. Obviously, I'm not happy that he's dead, RIP. I will forever mourn Angel Batista. But I think the way that it went down was great, pretty perfect. I mean, the only thing I would have liked to see for Dexter and Batista to have a true conversation about what he did and why he did it, and try to at least get Batista to maybe understand where he was coming from. I think about this quote from season 1, episode 6 of the original show, where Brian Moser digs up one of his victims, one of Dexter's victims from the ocean. Valerie Castillo, I think is her name. And Batista says to Dexter, "I would like to shake the hand of the man who did this." And Dexter says to himself internally, like, oh, you say that now. And I think also in Original Sin, in the prequel, I think maybe when like Ferrer shows up dead, I think young Batista said something to Dexter, something similar, like, I would like to shake the hand of the man who did this. So clearly Batista in Resurrection was hell-bent on taking down Dexter, but it would have been nice to see Dexter at least try to convince him of why what he did was right. And sort of like with Deb, when Deb finds out that Dexter is the butcher, you know, it takes her a little bit to come around, but eventually she understands why he does what he does. So it would have been interesting to see Batista sort of understand where he's coming from, but still not totally agree with it and somehow end up dying. And if his final words were, "Dexter Morgan, I forgive you," that would have been good too. And that would have been honestly a little bit more emotional. I would have probably cried even harder, but I am pretty satisfied with how this went down. Like I said, I'm happy that Dexter didn't do it himself. I am happy that Batista died knowing that his suspicions were right. But man, this is devastating. I'm truly mourning. I truly feel like someone I personally know has died, and the rest of the world is just moving on with their day. But little do they know, we just lost Angel Batista. And honestly, I really thought he was going to make it to season 2. I really did. So I was shocked that they killed him, not only in season 1, but the penultimate episode. Like, I thought he was at least going to make it to the finale of season 1. So this is insane. Incredible episode. One of the best of the entire franchise. Absolute 10 out of 10. I mean, shit, 12 out of 10. Like, oh my god. I will probably be rewatching this episode 2 more times before next week's finale. Speaking of the finale, I do want to warn you guys that the finale has leaked. So people are on Twitter and the internet in general spoiling the finale of Dexter Resurrection. So please be wary. I am staying off of Twitter for the next week, and there's a good chance I won't even be reading my comments on this video. So please, when you are going through this comment section of this very video, just be cautious. There might be some spoilers for the finale. which is such a shame because, you know, this cast and crew worked so hard on making this incredible show for us, and then some asshole out there is just gonna leak it. And then on top of that, fans who are assholes are going to spoil it for other fans. I hate that. I cannot stand that. I feel like collectively as a fandom, we should choose to not share this information. So just wanted to warn you guys and throw it out there. The finale has leaked. But holy shit, you guys. I don't know how they keep doing this. I don't know how this season has been some of the best episodes of Dexter in general. So impressive, and I cannot wait for the finale. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Definitely leave a comment and let me know your thoughts, and stay tuned because we're gonna do a promo breakdown for episode 10. That is coming up in the next couple of days on the channel. But thank you so much, and I will see you guys next time.